So, too much stuff. Do you feel sometimes like there's this big avalanche that's just speeding towards us, that's really ready to flatten all of our efforts on the environment and climate? I'll be honest, I do feel like that sometimes. And I'm pretty sure that avalanche might be growth. I think somehow we've got to somehow find an alternative to pursuing unlimited economic growth, actually, for any of our initiatives and ideas to really fulfill their potential. Eyebrows raised. Good. Um, every government aspires to GDP growth, right? It's understandable. Growth has lifted millions out of poverty. But is it really working for society now, today? Overconsumption in the global north, driven by growth, has now taken us to this precipice of ecological breakdown. Most income from growth, as we've just heard, stays only right at the very top. Owning more stuff isn't making us happier or healthier. The data is really clear on that. And actually, we've been calling GDP this really blunt measure since the 1960s, for goodness sake, but we still use it. But as Tim Jackson points out, questioning growth is deemed the act of lunatics, idealists, and revolutionaries. No one likes being called a lunatic. So we suggest something more commercial, right? Green growth. In hospitality, that means more travel, more guests, more events, more meals, more everything, basically, but somehow decoupled from the negative impacts. I guess my question is, do we all really genuinely believe that that's possible? I want to, genuinely, but most scientists don't seem that convinced. More growth means more energy demands. 2024 was a record year for energy demand. So, can we really decarbonize quickly enough if the overall energy demand keeps going up? I'm not sure, but it seems unlikely. Green growth looks to private capital, but why would they reduce production of things that are profitable? It doesn't seem to make sense. A circular economy, where I work, is undermined all the time if companies are incentivized to produce more and more stuff. And green growth is still, it seems, a bit dependent on this notion that new technology will eventually save us. We already live in an abundant economy, but we distribute terribly and we waste freely. So, what would a fairer post growth system look like? I am really not qualified to paint this picture, by the way, but I'll dare to try. It certainly wouldn't mean no growth. Economies in the global south would grow, right? Whole industries would grow: public transport, education, regenerative agriculture. And because of legislation that is against extractive processes and for circularity, lots of us here in this room would be better set up for success. I'm really convinced of that. Of course, other things, especially in the global north, would decline. So, fast fashion, private jets, SUVs, industrial beef. Um, and so for me, the logic is that overall production either goes down or it stops going up so high, and so do energy demands. And we'd finally look at health, happiness, and the environment when we measure success. Okay, this is a really big wish list, isn't it? Right? Let's be honest. I do kind of sound like a lunatic. Achieving any of this would require governments and businesses to collaborate on a virtually unprecedented scale. Crikey. We would all have to play our own part as industry, as people, in driving the conversation, facing massive resistance from everybody who profits from the status quo. So the temptation, I think, is to see all of this as just way too difficult, and probably to see me as incredibly naive. So because of that, we put this post-growth idea in the way too complicated box. We chuck it off the balloon, and we keep focusing on these green growth ideas. But isn't it potentially even more naive to think that we can carry on growing the economy exponentially and not F the planet up, basically? To me, it's like an aeroplane that accelerates faster and faster, burning more and more fuel all the time just to stay up. I don't really want to be on that flight, if I'm honest. I don't know if post growth is for sure the right thing. I know we need to talk about it and keep talking about it. Optimistically, in 2023, the EU held this really historic conference. It's called Beyond Growth. They can't all have been lunatics. So maybe, just maybe, a better way might be possible. I'll leave you all to ponder it. Thank you.